Hello everyone, my name is MrNJesey and welcome to my channel. Now in this video we're going to be showing you how you can use my modular engine ECU and also how you can use my modular engine auto transmission system. Now I've been getting a lot of questions about these and how you can set them up, how you can use them for your own creations, and also how you can customize them. I've also gone and just made a version 3 release of them, so they've just been updated for the current works of Stormworks at the moment, and I find they work the best. So I thought this would be a great time to just walk you through them, show you the features of them in their final state as it is right now, and also how you can actually add them onto your own creations. So let's jump in straight into it. Now I've got my usual 3 little workbenches here, all different engines. I've got a large engine, I've got a medium one, I've also got a small one on a car, so 3 like applicable use cases for them. And of course the controllers are what does them all. Now I've just gone and added a new feature that you can use these independently of each other. You don't have to use both of them, you can use either one or the other. So if you're using someone else's ECU, you can then use my transmission, or if you're using my transmission, you can use someone else's ECU, or you can use them together. Now I'm not saying that these are the best ones, I'm not saying they're the only ones, they're just the ones that I've created and the ones that I use on my own creations. So let's talk a little bit about them. The first one we have is the ECU. Now the ECU itself, before we actually even look at the settings, the smartest thing about it is it reads the engine data. So it reads how much air you have and it reads how much fuel you have in your cylinder and actually in your engine, and it adjusts that according to your own setup. So I can have 2 airs, I can have 2 fuels, I can have 6, I can have as many as I want, obviously within reason. Now the controller does tell you if you have too much fuel or if you have too much air, so definitely keep an eye on it when you are doing diagnosing. Just reach over, hover over the controller, and it tells you if you got too much air and tells you if you have too much fuel. And you'll see that in a few minutes once we start testing it. In terms of the settings, there's a nice setting here at the top which is telling the system what is your idle RPS. If you're sitting with no throttle, you can actually go and have the idle RPS on. The system will automatically run it at that set RPS, which is 8 RPS here. Okay, we also have an option here to choose the AFR value. It's the air fuel ratio for your engine. You can run it higher, you can run it lower. It's up to you, you have a setting here. I find 14.4 is my default, and it seems to be more or less the best here in Stormworks at the moment. We also have a feature here which allows overheating safety. So if you are worried about your engines overheating, this is a cutoff, which will pretty much put the engine into a cool down mode until the engine obviously gets cool enough, and then it turns it back on and then runs it. So that's a nice feature. We also have a new feature here on my ECU, which is something called a max throttle. Now this will go and tell the system how much the maximum throttle is allowed for your engine. Now these engines are really powerful, and for example on the car engine over here, if we were to leave this uncapped, this car would go really fast and it would burn through its gearboxes. Okay, but that's something we'll look at a little bit later on. Some other features. Last one we have is, are you using electrical engine as a starter? Yes or no? If you are, click on yes. If you're not, click on no. Okay. That's a nice little feature. Pretty much what that does just manages your clutch. Okay, so you can start the engine. Along with that, we also have my transmission system. The transmission system is pretty cool. You can see here at the top, there's an option to tell the system how many gearboxes you have. So for example, on this engine, we have none. On this one, we've got 3. Okay, so we could come on here and tell it how many we have. None, do we have 3, do we have, doesn't matter, it's up to you. Okay. If you're going more than 4, because you'll notice there's only 4 nodes on here, okay, for gearboxes. If you're going more than 4, all you have to do is click on the edit, go into the controller, and you can see I've labeled and left here some extra nodes for extra gearboxes. So you just need to add on the nodes here. So you would increase the size, add some more nodes, gearbox 4, gearbox 5, gearbox 6, go back and add them on here. It's already set up. All you have to do is just connect it over here. So really quite straightforward. You can choose between an automatic and a manual system. If you're going for manual, you can use your up and down of your keyboard. If you're going for automatic, the system will change the gears for you. When it will change the gear is up to you. I've set it here 20, it will go and change the gear up. If it drops below 5, it will change the gear down, and that's the RPS it's reading. Last question, again, same as the ECU, because remember these things can work independent. The question here is, are you using electrical engine as a starter? Yes or no? Okay, so that's another question that you have to ask yourself. So 3 different examples. Let's go and set them up. Let's do this engine with just the ECU. Let's do this engine with the ECU and the transmission system. And then let's do the car with the ECU and the transmission system. Okay, so we're going to do a couple different examples. We'll see how they work and we'll go through the settings of how you can set them up. Okay, because they all generally work the same way, but you can change a few things along the way. So let's start with a big engine, which is just the ECU itself. So we need to start connecting some logic. Now, the first thing you have here is you have some ECU data. This will go and show you your RPS, it will show you your temperature, and it will show you your air-fuel ratio on a composite panel. Now, you'll notice I've already got a composite panel just over here, and if I click on it, you will see that we have air-fuel on channel 13, we have temperature on channel 15, and we also have RPS on channel 10. So you can export that data into a composite panel or into another controller or into a monitor or whatever else you want, but it's here for you if you want it. Okay, I need it, so I'm going to connect it. Transmission data. Well, I'm not using a transmission system, so I can ignore that controller. I don't have to worry about it. Engine data. Each cylinder head on a modular engine has a composite data. We're going to get that connected. We also have the seat. The seat is what tells the engine very important things. 1, whether it needs to turn on. 2, the throttle. And 3, the gears. Now, we're not using a gear system, so we don't have to worry about that. So all we have is 1, turn it on, and WNS for throttle. Now, if you want to, for example, use the throttle lever, for example, like this, you will need to do some additional work. You will need to convert this throttle number into composite and then into my controller. Guys, if you want to see a bigger version of this that does have a throttle input on it, let me know and I'll create a different version. The reason why I've made this so compact and use composite is because I presume people are using this for vehicles like cars where you don't have a lot of space, or smaller boats where you don't have a lot of space. But if you want a node here for, let's say, for on and off, or if you want a node here for throttle, let me know in the comments below and I'll create another controller, a bigger version for you guys that you don't have to do it for you. Just let me know, please. Along with that, we can always get some more things connected. So we can start working on our data. So data, we've got our speed. So if you want to connect a speed sensor, this is important for cars or for boats. It does help with the acceleration, so you can connect that. Just a linear speed, directional, very straightforward. Don't have to. RPS from the engine, sure, let's get that connected. Starter motor. If you're using a starter motor, connect it. If you're not, leave it off. Okay, what this will do is obviously turn the starter motor on when it wants to. Radiator fans. So I got an option here for you to control your radiator fans. You can either do that manually or you can use the controller to do it. The controller will turn the fans on when it gets over a certain degree. So I think it's 30 degrees and it turns the controller on. Again, it tells it to turn the fans on. So if you want that to work, connect it. If you want to do it manually, do that. If you want it always on, then connect it always on. Modular engine clutch. We can go and connect that over to our modular engine clutch. Electrical engines. If you're using electrical engines, you can connect those over here now. Okay, what that does is obviously it gives more power to your engine to start it up quicker instead of just using a starter motor. We also have air, so we can get the air connected. There we go. And we have fuel. Get the fuel connected. Now we could add more fuel. We could add more air. The controller will adjust as it needs to, which is another cool feature of it. So now we've got that. You're probably thinking, well, what settings do I need on my seat? Because now we're using a seat to control everything. Well, on, off, simple toggle, very straightforward. In terms of throttle, reset, I recommend 100%. You don't have to, you can use 20%, you can use 10%, you can use whatever you want. Once again, 20%, let's use that and let's show you guys how that's gonna work, okay? So we've got that, now it comes onto the settings for the controller. What would you like your engine RPS to sit at idle? Well, I want it to sit at idle 8 RPS. Okay, it will stop idling as soon as I give it throttle from my seat. AFR 14.4. Well, let's set it to 13.8. Let's see how well it adjusts. Overheating safety. When it gets over 100 degrees, do you want the engine to go into cool down mode? Yes or no? Throttle. Now, throttle's a nice feature, as I said earlier. It allows you to limit the power of your engine. So we can say, hey, maximum 0.3, or we can leave it up to full. It's up to you. Are you using electrical engine as a starter? Well, yes, we are using electrical engines here, so I want to tick yes there. Spawn it in. Let's go and test it. Let's see if that's going to work. Okay, I've changed quite a few settings. So jump in, 1 to turn it on. Engine's turning on. It boosted its throttle up just so it got started. And now you'll notice it should start dropping down to around 8 RPS, which is its idle RPS. Now we set the AFR to 13.8. AFR is at 13.8. Perfect. I'm happy with that. Now, if you want to go into more details, let's imagine this is not working. You guys can't understand. It's not working. Hover over the controller and it will tell you if there's too much fuel or if there's too much air. At the bottom of that little thing there, it tells you if it's got too much fuel, too much air. Okay, so that's a nice little feature of that controller. So you can see how easy it was. Now, we can also go over here, see our RPS, see our AFR, and see our temperature. Use WNS to increase throttle. There we go, increase throttle. Let go of my throttle. And it starts dropping it down back to its idle RPS. So it should go to around 8 RPS in a few seconds and 13.8 on the AFR. Okay, so as I play with the sensitivity of your WNS if you wanted to react quicker or slower. Okay, so that's a cool feature. And of course, turn it off, press 1, and it literally kills the engine. Doesn't leave it sitting there idling, kills it straight away. So that's a really another feature. Let's do this medium engine. So this time we're going to use the transmission system. Let's do it in a manual transmission. So pretty much same principle as before. ECU data to our composite transmission system. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Engine data, yes. Seat data, yes. Let's get everything else. Speed, we don't have. RPS from our engine, yes. Radiator fans, yes. Starter motor. Okay, we don't have a starter motor, so we're going to leave that empty. Electrical engines, sure, let's get that connected. Clutch, let's get that connected. Air to the air. Fuel to the fuel. Okay, and let's go and check. Everything else looks fine. Okay, now let's do the transmission system. Now the transmission system you'll see has a seat input. This is something new I added. It also has transmission out, so that's just data that it's sending back to the ECU. And it also has some options here for gearboxes. So for example, we can go on here and say, hey, this is the first gearbox. There we go. It's third gearbox. There we go. And second gearbox. There we go. Reverse. I'm not using reverse gearbox, so don't worry about that. Engine clutch. Oh, well, there's engine clutch here and here. Which one do we use? Well, if you're using the transmission system, you need to use the transmission clutch. If you're not using the transmission system, use the ECU clutch. Okay, pretty simple. Engine RPS, sure. Now we can actually go and configure both of these things. Let's start with the ECU. Idle RPS is 8, sure. AFR, let's leave it at 14.4. Overheating, yes. Maximum throttle, let's say the maximum throttle is actually 0.5. Electric starter, yes. Let's go to the transmission system. We're going to set this to a manual system so we can ignore the RPS. How many gearboxes? We have 3, so we're going to change that to 3. Pretty much what that does is it stops you from going higher than 3 when you're changing gears or the system's changing it for you. Electrical engine as starter, yes, we do have one of those. Cool. Now we can actually go and spawn that in. So we can go over, jump on our seat, and in theory, if we press 1, it should start. Okay, you can see it's opened that up because the electrical engines need to obviously turn the engine on because we have no starter. Now we set it to 8 RPS, so give it a few seconds. We should see this at 8 RPS. Okay, there we go. We all set it to 14.4 on the AFR. It's on 14.4. Really nice. Along with that, we can also go and change the gears up and down. So for example, if I go and press W for increase my throttle, I can use up and down on my keyboard to change the gears. Okay, so I can see there. I'm just using my keyboard. Change gear up or down as I want. Okay, one thing you will notice is that this system will go and reduce your throttle in order to change the gear. Okay, so just be aware of that. I think it's a cool feature. That means you never break any of your gearboxes because you're putting too much torque through. So another nice, really cool feature. Back to our idle RPS, which is 8. Back to our AFR, which is 14.4. Okay, well, let's change this now to a automatic gearbox. So we switch auto. We're going to tell the system, hey, RPS, you can change up at 20 RPS. and you can change back down at 5 RPS. Alrighty, so let's go and spawn this in and let's see if this is going to work now with an automatic system. So 1 to start it up. Should start like a normal engine. It shouldn't change any of its gears until we give it some throttle. So it should just be sitting a nice idle RPS. I'm guessing it's going to drop down to about 8 in a few seconds, and we should be on 14.4. Cool, so happy with that. Let's go and use WNS throttle and let's see how the system is going to change gears for us. And change gear, when to change gear, and when change gear. Okay, I'm going to let go of my throttle and notice how I went and downshifted, and now it's back in idle. It's going to go back and sit around 8 RPS for us. Okay, so it can change its gears automatically up and down as it needs to, which is really cool. It will not change the gear up unless it actually has some throttle onto it. So this is a really nice way, and you could see how powerful that engine was even though we limited it to 0.5. So let's bring us back into the workbench and let's do the car. Okay, so this is a very common use case for both of these controllers. So we're going to go through, we're going to get everything connected like we've done before. So we're going to go start with our ECU. We've got our composite panel. We've got transmission system. We've got our engine data. We've got our seat data. We've got our seat data. Let's go over to everything else. So we got speed. So that's going to go straight directly to a simple linear speed sensor. We've also got our RPS. There we go. We've also got our radiator fans. Do we want the system to turn it on? Yes, we do. Starter motor. We have one of those this time. Modular engine clutch. Sure, let's get that connected. Electrical engine. I have one of those. Fuel. There we go. Air. There we go. RPS from the engine again. Yep. Modular engine clutch. Well, I'm using my transmission system, so I'm going to use that one instead. Reverse gearbox. Second gearbox. Fourth gearbox. Third gearbox. First gearbox. Nice. Now that's all done, we can literally go into our controllers and tell it what's going on. So idle RPS, 8 is fine for us. AFR, let's say we want something a little bit to run a little bit more leaner, so about 15. Overheating, yes. Maximum throttle, let's leave it on 1 and I'll show you guys how this performs. Electrical engine as starter, yes. Amount of gearboxes, 4, yeah, we have 4, so that's fine. Automatic and manual, that's fine. Actually, I'm going to put it on manual. I want to show you a new feature. Electrical engine and starter, yes. Okay, cool. So we should be able to spawn that in, it should work. So let's go and jump in the seat. 1, turn it on. This should go to about 15 in a few seconds. Now, gear 0, which is new, is currently neutral. You'll notice I can go in, increase and decrease my throttle to rev it. Okay, I can obviously go and gear up to change it to first gear and drive around. Now I'm going to switch this over to a automatic system. I'm going to go jump in, change it to auto, spawn in again, jump in my seat, turn it on. It's running. Full throttle forwards, first gear, second gear, third gear. And you see how it's burning through those gears. We're really on our 5th gear. Yeah, it's got way too much power in this engine. Okay, you can also hear it downshifting and stuff. So what I like to do, especially with a car like this where I think it's got too much power, I would go into it, I would go into the ECU and I would go and say, hey, maximum throttle that you can have is 0.4, for example. Go back, let's try it now, and let's see how long it will take to change our gears. So forward throttle, revs up, changes gear, revs up, changes gear. Can you see how longer it's taking to change our gears because we don't have that much power anymore? So this is much more economical now, and also won't rev up and overheat so quickly too. Okay, so pretty cool that you can obviously limit your throttle. Okay, if you guys would maybe like to see a speed limiter system or maybe an RPS limiter system, let me know. I would love to hear your comments in the video description on what you guys would like to see for this. Now, another cool feature is if you want to put it into reverse, just press the down key on your keyboard. It throws it into reverse, and you can now go and obviously drive it in reverse. Okay, we can go back into neutral. Gearbox when we want to go forwards, we'll then switch it to first. Okay, and you can hear it revving up. Yeah, revs up, changes gear. Revs up, changes gear. And you can just keep on hearing it doing that. Okay, and it's going to continue doing that until it hits its maximum limit for its amount of gears. So for example, we've now stopped here at gear number 5, which is literally the maximum we can go to. It won't go any higher than that. It's literally just going to stop on gear 5. Okay, so ladies and gents, I hope you have enjoyed this video. These controllers at the moment are version 3, so if you have used them before and you're still having trouble with them, double check to make sure that they are the latest version, which is version 3 at the moment. As I do, I'll always do update these controllers and try and keep them as up to date as possible for you guys so that you can use them on your creations. As I said, these are not the best ones. There are tons of different ECUs and different transmission systems on the workshop that you can download and play with. These are just mine. These are the ones that I use for my creations. And hopefully they are quite simple and quite easy to use, and you can use them for any type of creation too, which is quite nice here. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed this and found it so entertaining and informative as always. If you want to hit that like button, it really does help out the video. And also, until the next one, we will see you then.